First-class passenger told to move by flight attendant. They didn't know he was the airline owner. So what happened next? Stick around until the end. Elijah Brooks was no ordinary man. He had built his empire from nothing. Grew up in South Central Los Angeles. Raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs and still managed to get her kids to school every day with clean clothes and hot food. Elijah never forgot that. He wasn't born with a silver spoon. In fact, some days, he didn't even have a spoon. He was the kind of kid who read library books under the streetlights when the power was out of home. He dreamed big, not just about escaping poverty, but about transforming the system that kept people like him boxed in. By age 18, he had started his first business, a small logistics company shuttling goods from warehouses to stores. By 25, he was running an international shipping operation. By 35, he had purchased a small regional airline that had been floundering in debt and turned it into one of the fastest-growing private airline companies in the country. But none of that was printed on his face. So when Elijah stepped onto that plane, dressed in a plain gray hoodie, slim jeans, sneakers, and a backpack over his shoulder, no one recognized him. Not the passengers, not the flight crew. And that's where the story takes off. Her name was Stephanie. She had been flying for over 15 years, prided herself on efficiency and keeping first class refined. And today, she felt on edge. It was a full flight, the kind where tempers get short and smiles were thin. She saw Elijah enter the cabin and immediately furrowed her brows. "Excuse me, sir. First-class boarding has ended. Economy is boarding from the rear." Elijah smiled politely and handed her his ticket. She glanced at it, then looked again. "Oh, seat 1A. That's, She paused, thrown off. "One moment, please." Stephanie walked over to the purser, whispering in a tone just barely below condescending. "We got a mix-up. A passenger in 1A who doesn't seem like he belongs." The purser raised an eyebrow. "Doesn't seem like he belongs? What do you mean?" Stephanie leaned in. "Just trust me. I think someone in the back swapped tickets, or maybe staff. I'll handle it." She walked back, putting on the most professional tone she could manage. "Sir, I believe there's been a mistake. We may need you to move to the back, so we can verify your seating." Elijah's eyes didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He simply reached into his bag and handed her another card, one not many people had seen before. A black platinum ID card with the airline's logo and Elijah's full name, Elijah Brooks, Chief Executive Officer. Stephanie's face changed instantly. Color drained. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "Is there a problem?" Elijah asked calmly. The moment froze in time. Nearby passengers had overheard enough to start whispering. Eyes darted back and forth. Murmurs turned into audible gasps. One man, seated in 1C, muttered under his breath, "Wait, that's the owner?" Elijah sat down quietly in 1A and adjusted his seatbelt. Stephanie tried to recover. "Mr. Brooks, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Please forgive the misunderstanding." Elijah didn't respond immediately. He looked around at the other passengers, some avoiding eye contact, others awkwardly trying to smile. Then he said, "It's not the first time someone's assumed I didn't belong. I'm used to it." But the flight was just beginning, and so was the reckoning. This wasn't the first time Elijah had been judged. From boardrooms where executives mistook him for the valet, to banks that assumed he was the assistant to the real account holder, Elijah had seen every side eye, every dismissive tone, every backhanded compliment. "You speak so well. You must be an athlete or something. How did you afford this?" And yet, despite it all, Elijah kept his head high and his character unshaken, because he knew that respect built on appearance was nothing. True power? True power didn't beg to be noticed. It just existed. Quiet, undeniable. But today, he was done being quiet. By the time the plane landed in New York, the story had already made it to social media. Another passenger had tweeted the interaction, a photo of Elijah holding his CEO card. The tweet read, "Flight attendant tried to remove a black man from first class. Turns out he's the CEO of the airline. This is why profiling doesn't work." Within hours, the tweet had over 100,000 likes. The video that followed, someone had managed to catch the awkward apology on film, went viral. The airline's PR team scrambled to do damage control. Statements were issued. Apologies were posted. Stephanie was placed on leave pending training and internal review. But Elijah, he wasn't angry. He was intentional. He made a statement the next morning. This isn't about me. It's about the system. It's about the assumptions people make based on skin color, clothing, or how professional someone looks. My success didn't come from being accepted. I succeeded despite being constantly told I wasn't enough. Let this be a lesson. Treat every person with respect. Not because they might be powerful, but because it's right. Elijah didn't waste time. After that flight landed, he didn't go to his penthouse or luxury hotel suite. He headed straight to the headquarters of his airline, Brooks Air International. He walked the front doors like he always did. No security detail, no entourage. Just him. And when the receptionist greeted him nervously, everyone had seen a viral video by now. He simply smiled and asked her to call an emergency board meeting. Not next week. Not later today. Now, inside the glass-walled conference room on the 25th floor, executives shuffled in with stiff collars and uneasy glances. Some whispered among themselves. Others looked down at the long oak table, pretending not to notice the elephant in the room. Elijah stood at the head of the table and took a deep breath. "We're going to talk about culture," he began. "Not just numbers, not just profits. Culture, because no matter how many awards we win or how many routes we add, none of it matters if our own staff treat customers and each other like they're less than." He paused. "Let that sit. What happened on that flight isn't just about one person. It's about the silent approval we give to bias when we don't call it out. That ends today." That day, Elijah unveiled a new initiative across the entire company, the Respect First campaign. It wasn't just a diversity workshop. It was a complete restructuring of the company's training system. Every employee, from the ground crew to executive management, was required to complete real-world scenario simulations, not PowerPoint slides, not corporate jargon, real conversations, role-play exercises, group discussions led by DI experts and former civil rights leaders. The slogan was simple: treat every person like they own the plane. Some laughed at first, but the message spread quickly. Pilots, attendants, check-in agents. Everyone began to talk differently, behave differently, and Elijah made sure it stuck by showing up personally at terminals, lounges, even training sessions. Not as a CEO, but as a student too. "If I'm not willing to learn, why should anyone else?" he told the trainers. Weeks later, Elijah boarded another flight, this time from Atlanta to Chicago. He sat in coach on purpose, didn't notify the staff, wore a hoodie again. This time, a flight attendant approached with a smile. "Welcome aboard, sir. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask." No assumptions, no hesitation, just respect. Elijah smiled and nodded, but something else happened. An older black man across the aisle leaned over and whispered, "I saw that video. You don't know what that meant to me, brother." Elijah placed a hand on his heart. "I do," he said quietly. "That's why I did it." Long before he was flying first class or owning the planes, Elijah had dreams bigger than his environment. At age 12, he'd saved up money washing cars so he could buy a second-hand laptop. He built his own website by 13. At 16, he was managing small delivery contracts for local stores out of his mom's garage. The neighborhood wasn't easy. Police sirens were nightly background noise. Friends got pulled into gangs. Some didn't make it to 21. But Elijah, he had a vision that went beyond his block. His mother, Denise Brooks, kept him grounded. "Don't let the world tell you where you belong," she'd always say. "You tell the world where you're going." He carried those words every step of the way. Elijah didn't come to own an airline by luck. It was sweat, strategy, sacrifice. He bought his first private jet through a leasing deal that nearly bankrupted him. But he turned it into a luxury charter service for music artists and CEOs. That business grew into a fleet. That fleet grew into a brand. Eventually, he bought out a struggling regional airline for pennies on the dollar, restructured its routes, rebranded it with world-class service, and built it from the ground up. But he always remembered where he came from and what it felt like to be overlooked. When the viral video hit national news, talk shows called him. News anchors wanted interviews. Magazines asked for cover shoots. But Elijah only accepted one, an interview with a small podcast run by young black college students. "I want to speak to the people who needed that moment the most," he said, "not the ones who want to commodify it." In that interview, he said something that would go on to be quoted everywhere. Every time a black man walks into a space where he's not expected and takes up space anyway, he's rewriting history. And that's exactly what Elijah was doing, rewriting the rules and forcing an industry and a nation to check its assumptions. And what about Stephanie, the flight attendant who told Elijah to move? She was put on unpaid leave and required to undergo a full month of immersive training under the new Respect First program. Most companies would have fired her quietly, but Elijah, he had other plans. He invited Stephanie to a company town hall where he was speaking. She sat in the back, nervous, uncertain. When he took the stage, he told the story, not to shame her, but to show growth. "We all have blind spots," he said, "but growth is possible if we choose it." Then he did something unexpected. He called Stephanie to the stage. With shaking hands, she joined him. "You had a choice to grow. You took it, and now you're going to lead." Elijah promoted her to head of in-flight customer experience training, redemption, responsibility, respect. The room gave a standing ovation. A few weeks after corporate town hall, Elijah boarded another flight. But this one was personal. No press, no bodyguards, no suit, just him, a duffel bag, and a sense of purpose. He flew back to South Central Los Angeles, back to the neighborhood where cracked sidewalks had taught him how to hustle, where corner stores doubled as classrooms and basketball courts were where real negotiations happened. The same neighborhood where he was suspended in 8th grade for talking back to a teacher who told him he wasn't college material. He walked through the gates of Jefferson Middle School where it all began. The school was older now, paint faded, fences rusted, but the spirit, still there. Kids running around the playground, teachers trying their best with limited resources. Nothing had really changed until today, because Elijah wasn't there just to visit. He was about to change a generation. The school gathered the students into the gym. Rumors flew. Some famous guy is visiting. One kid said, "A rapper?" Another guessed. Then Elijah walked in. No entourage, no flash, just presence. The principal, Mrs. Renee Thompson, introduced him. "Today, we welcome back a former student. He's not a rapper, not an athlete, not a celebrity. But he's powerful. He's Elijah Brooks, CEO of Brooks Air." Gasps, whispers. The same Elijah? The kid they suspended? Elijah took the mic. "I was once told in this very school that I wouldn't make it." He looked at the crowd. "But here I am, and I'm not just here to talk. I'm here to invest." The students leaned in. "Starting this fall, we're launching the Brooks Future Flyers program. Every student who completes the program will receive mentorship, internship opportunities, and if they qualify, college tuition paid in full. By me." The gym erupted. Teachers covered their mouths in disbelief. Students jumped out their seats. Some started crying. Elijah smiled. "I didn't come back to show off. I came back to lift up." After the announcement, Elijah took a walk to the hallways. Posters still hung crooked. The same green lockers lined the walls. Then he came to the door of room 212, his old classroom. Inside was Ms. Grant, the same teacher who had once told him, "You have potential, but your attitude will ruin you." She turned surprised. "Elijah?" "Hi, Ms. Grant. I never forgot your words. You were right. I did have potential. And today, I'm here because you made me realize it." She was speechless. Tears welled in her eyes. They hugged. For Elijah, it wasn't about proving her wrong. It was about showing her that her doubt became his drive, and that even painful lessons had value. News of Elijah's school visit hit the local press first, but then the story spread. National networks picked it up. Airline CEO returns to his old middle school to fund future pilots and entrepreneurs. Elijah started receiving letters from students all over the country. Some said, "You made me believe I could be more." Others asked, "How can I join the program?" And that's when Elijah had a realization. This wasn't just about one school, one neighborhood. This was a movement. Elijah expanded the program. Brooks Future Flyers was launched in 12 cities in its first year, then 30, then 50. Partnerships with aviation schools, internships at his airline, scholarships for young black engineers, pilots, business students, and more. He hired a full-time director to oversee it, a woman named Janelle, who had once worked as a TSA agent but had dreams of being a pilot. Elijah gave her the chance. She took it and flew, literally and figuratively. Representation in the sky begins on the ground. Elijah told a national conference. He meant every word, but not everyone was cheering. One day, at a corporate aviation conference, Elijah ran into Gerald Huxley, the CEO of a legacy airline company. Huxley shook Elijah's hand with a fake smile. "Impressive what you've done, Brooks. Social media loves a good story." Elijah didn't flinch. "It's not a story. It's a standard." Huxley smirked. "Well, when the media stops watching, let's see if your standards stick." Elijah leaned in. "I don't build for cameras. I build for people." Then walked away, because Elijah had learned real power doesn't flex, it acts. Later that year, Stephanie, the flight attendant from the infamous flight, sent Elijah a message. It read, "Thank you for not giving up on me. I now train others not to make the same mistake I did. You didn't just change my job, you changed my life." Elijah invited her to speak at a leadership summit. She told her story with honesty, shame, and growth. Her closing words echoed to the auditorium. "I thought I knew what people like him looked like, but now I know we all need to stop deciding who belongs based on appearance. Because sometimes the person we look down on owns the whole plane." The crowd stood in applause. A year passed. Elijah boarded another flight. This time, he wore a full suit, not to prove anything, but because he had just come from speaking at Harvard Business School. He sat in seat 1A. A new flight attendant came over, greeted him kindly, and offered him a drink. He nodded, thankful. Then he looked out the window, reflecting, from being told to move, to owning the skies, from a kid reading under streetlights, to building an empire, from assumptions to ascension. Then a young black boy, maybe 12 or 13, walked past first class, on his way to coach. He glanced at Elijah and froze. Elijah smiled and gave a small nod. The boy whispered to his mother, "Mom, I think that's him." The CO. His mom smiled. "Then keep watching. That could be you one day." Elijah looked ahead, heartful, because this flight, this movement, was far from over. And that's how a man went from being told he didn't belong in first class to owning the entire airline, not with anger, not with ego, but with quiet power, persistent grace, and undeniable excellence. The next time someone tells you that you don't belong, remember Elijah Brooks and fly anyway. Like my video and subscribe my channel for more daily videos.